What if I told you that the very verse you've been searching for, the very lifeline your heart has been silently crying out for in the middle of endless nights, has been right here all along, hidden in the timeless words of Allah? When the weight of sadness presses down and your chest feels tight, when you wonder if life will ever make sense again, when you feel like no one understands the depth of your silent screams, it is exactly in those moments that the Quran becomes more than a book. It becomes a voice that whispers into your wounds, a light breaking through the cracks of despair, and a reminder that there is still hope in dark times. These words are not ordinary words. They are words from the Quran, and they carry a cure that the world can never offer. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself standing at the edge of a stormy sea, winds howling, waves crashing, your heart racing with fear. You feel small, powerless, forgotten. That is what depression feels like, isn't it? But then, imagine a voice stronger than the storm, calmer than the waves, reaching your heart and saying, "Do not fear, for I am with you." Few people realize how many hidden treasures are buried in these divine words, how many secrets of the soul Allah revealed for those who feel broken. This message is not random, and you are not here by accident. You were guided to this very moment because Allah wants you to hear something that could shift the entire direction of your life. I know you have carried silent battles. Maybe you have smiled while breaking inside. Maybe you have prayed without words. Maybe you've wondered if Allah truly hears you. Tonight, you will discover that He does. This is not about cliches like time heals all wounds. Time alone heals nothing. What heals is turning back to the one who controls time itself. What heals is hearing His voice through His book, letting it pierce through your despair, and remind you that with Him, there is always hope in dark times. The words from the Quran you are about to hear are not just verses. They are living guidance, personal, intimate, spoken to you across centuries. They are proof that you are not forgotten, and that even in the valley of shadows, Allah's mercy is closer than your breath. Few people know this secret. Fewer still have allowed it to transform them. That's why you are here, to uncover what has been hidden in plain sight, to realize that the cure you've long searched for has always been waiting for you. In a world where so many voices drown your soul, one voice remains untouched, uncorrupted, eternal, the voice of Allah calling you to rise again, to breathe again, to believe again. And in the next moments, we will walk together into the very verse that holds the power to break chains of despair. Stay with me, because what comes next may feel as if Allah Himself is answering your dua through these words. Before we step into the verse that holds the cure, I want you to pause for a moment. Breathe deeply and whisper Bismillah. This is not just another video. This is a sacred space, a reminder that perhaps Allah is answering your secret supplications right now. You did not arrive here by chance. You were guided here because your heart has been searching, and tonight your search meets the words of Allah. If you are listening to this and your soul is stirring, let that be your declaration of faith. Write in the comments, "I trust in Allah." Let it be a public testimony that you choose to believe even when life feels unbearable. Do not hold back, because these words can become your banner of hope. For some, it may feel too vulnerable, but that vulnerability is worship. This is how you say, "I am not ashamed to declare my need for Allah." And if your heart is already being touched, then let your like on this video be more than a click. Think of it as Sadaqah Jariyah, a charity that continues to flow, because with every like, this reminder travels further, reaching another soul who is on the brink of despair, another believer who needs to feel that there is still hope in dark times. Imagine your simple action being the reason someone else finds peace through the words of the Quran. This is also your invitation to belong. Subscribe and know that here you are never alone. This community is a family of hearts bound together by faith, by longing, by the desire to heal through Allah's words. You will not walk this path in isolation. Every verse we share, every reminder we bring, ties us together in a bond of mercy and remembrance. Stay with me, because Allah revealed something powerful about your very situation, and it is too important for you to miss. What you are about to hear may shift your heart in ways you never expected. Do not leave before you hear it, because perhaps this is the answer to what you begged Allah for in the silence of the night. Imagine being lowered into the cold darkness of a pit, the voices of those who should love you echoing above as they walk away. The faint light of the sky disappears, and what remains is silence, dampness, and fear. You are young, innocent, and vulnerable. Your body trembles, not only because of the chill of the stones, but because of the shock in your chest. The betrayal came not from strangers, but from your own blood. That was the reality of Prophet Yusuf when his brothers cast him into the well. They left him in a place that seemed designed to erase him from existence, and for a moment, it looked as if his life had ended before it truly began. Alone, abandoned, invisible, that is what the well represents, and it is what so many hearts feel today when depression grips them in its pitiless embrace. Hopelessness in dark times is not a modern condition. It is an ancient trial recorded in the words of the Qur'an, so that you may see yourself in Yusuf's silence and realize you are not the first to feel forgotten. Think about the weight of that moment. Yusuf's heart beating, fast in the suffocating blackness, his hands scraping against the stone as he tried to steady himself, the distant sound of footsteps fading away, the taste of betrayal more bitter than hunger. The one who had dreamed of the stars bowing down now found himself in a hole in the earth. How could such a dream survive in such despair? And yet, it was precisely here that Allah was present in ways unseen. This is why the Qur'an declares, "Indeed, my Lord is subtle in what he wills." Qur'an 12:100. Subtle, gentle, hidden in ways we do not perceive until much later. His mercy works not with noise and spectacle, but with quiet precision, orchestrating deliverance through the very places we think are our graves. Haven't you felt like Yusuf? Haven't there been days when you felt dropped into a pit with no ladder out? Maybe it wasn't brothers, but betrayal by friends or abandonment by people you loved. Maybe it wasn't a physical well, but a depression that swallows you whole, making the light of life feel unreachable. Depression tells you that you are invisible, that no one sees your tears, that no one understands the heaviness you carry. It whispers that you are forgotten even by Allah. But here is the disruption. Yusuf was never unseen, and neither are you. The Qur'an's words echo across time to remind you that your pit is not empty. It is filled with Allah's presence, though your eyes cannot yet recognize it. Pause for a moment and reflect. What if the betrayals in your life were not endings but beginnings? What if the people who abandoned you were removed by Allah to clear your path to something higher? What if the very pit you curse is the soil in which your destiny is being planted? This is the subtlety of Allah. Human beings call it misfortune, but Allah calls it preparation. We say dark times, but Allah says hidden guidance. We cry over loss, but Allah smiles at what He is about to give. Depression convinces you that nothing good can come from your situation, but the Quran testifies that every descent carries within it the seed of ascent. Look again at Yusuf. The boy in the well became the man who would one day rule Egypt. The child abandoned became the savior of nations. The tears of betrayal became the fountain of wisdom. None of this was visible in the well. He couldn't see it. You can't see it either, but Allah can. That is why the words of the Quran are not simply reminders. They are mirrors reflecting your own hidden story. If you have ever mistaken your depression for the end of your worth, let Yusuf teach you that what looks like burial may actually be birth. Have you ever wondered why Allah chose to tell us these stories in such detail? He could have simply said, Yusuf was betrayed, but he survived. Yet Allah paints the scene, lets us hear the whispers of the brothers, feel the stones of the well, taste the fear in Yusuf's heart. Why? Because He wants you to feel seen. He wants the believer who is curled up in the dark, unable to leave their bed, to know, your story is in my book. Your despair is not foreign to me. This is the mercy of the Quran. It reaches into your most personal struggles and says, look, others walked this road before you. You are not cursed. You are not weak. You are part of a legacy of those who suffered but were chosen. So let me ask you directly, have you ever felt like your pit was permanent? Have you believed the lie that depression means your faith is broken? Many will tell you that sadness is a sign of weak iman, but is that true? If a prophet chosen by Allah can sit in the darkness of a well, if he can be abandoned by his family and cry out in pain, then what does that say about your own struggles? It says that your pain does not disqualify you from Allah's love. It says that your tears are not shameful but sacred. It says that the pit you are in does not prove Allah's absence. It proves His plan. This is why you cannot surrender to the lie of despair. Depression convinces you that silence is proof of abandonment, but the Quran teaches that silence can be the ground of subtle miracles. Think of it. The rope that would one day lift Yusuf from the well was already on its way. long before he even knew rescue was possible, and the rope for you is already descending. You may not see it, but it is coming. Allah's decree is always ahead of your awareness. His mercy always moves before you ask. His subtlety always arranges relief in ways that shock you when they finally appear. If this is reaching your heart, don't just listen passively. Make your soul speak. Write in the comments, Allah sees me in the darkness. Do not underestimate the power of declaring this. It is not just for others to read. It is for your own heart to witness. By writing it, you carve it into your soul. I am not invisible. I am not abandoned. I am seen by the one who lifted Yusuf from the well. So here lies the challenge. Are you willing to see your pit differently? Are you willing to trust that the coldness of your present is only the wrapping of a gift you have not yet opened? Because the well is not punishment. The well is placement. The well is training. Allah does not throw His beloved into darkness to destroy them. He places them there to raise them. And when you can see that your depression is not a verdict but a vehicle, your heart begins to loosen its chains. But let's go deeper. Imagine if Yusuf, in his despair, had believed the whispers of Shaitan that Allah had forgotten him. Imagine if he had surrendered to bitterness. Would the story have ended there? Would the dream of the stars bowing down ever have been fulfilled? This is why your mindset in the pit matters. Depression is real, but despair is a choice. Depression is a state of the heart, but hope is a command from Allah. Do not despair of the mercy of Allah, He says. If Yusuf could believe in Allah's subtle plan when all he saw was darkness, then you too can choose to believe even when you see nothing but shadows. And here comes the disruption that shakes you awake. What if your depression itself is not a sign of Allah's distance, but proof of His closeness? What if the very heaviness in your chest is Allah knocking, urging you to lean on Him more fully than you ever have? What if your tears are not signs of weakness but drops of worship, lifting you higher than the pride of those who never cry? The world may tell you to suppress your sadness. The Qur'an tells you to surrender it to Allah. The world may tell you to numb your pain. The Qur'an tells you to transform it into dua. Let this truth sink in. Yusuf's well was temporary. Your darkness is temporary. His betrayal did not define him. Your trauma does not define you. What defines you is how you allow Allah's words to shape your response. Depression whispers, forever. The Qur'an whispers, soon. Depression says, you are alone. The Qur'an says, Allah is with you. Depression says, you are unloved. The Qur'an says Allah is subtle in what He wills. So breathe. Imagine Allah's rope descending into your pit even as you hear this. Imagine His angels surrounding you, unseen. Imagine His decree already arranging your escape. Your role is not to know how. Your role is to hold on. Your sabr in the well is the bridge to your palace. Your tawakkul in the dark is the currency of your future light. And just when you feel you are beginning to grasp this truth, let me unsettle you again. Because while Yusuf's story shows us the subtlety of Allah in betrayal, there is another story, another prophet, who stood trembling before an enemy so powerful it could have crushed him. And the words Allah gave him that day strike directly at the root of anxiety and fear of the future. Words so powerful that if you let them settle into your heart, your panic about tomorrow will begin to melt. Are you ready to hear them? Because what comes next is not what most people expect, and it may change the way you see fear forever. Picture the scene. A man chosen by Allah, carrying the weight of prophecy, standing before the most feared tyrant of his time. The walls of Pharaoh's palace tower around him, the eyes of soldiers pierce into him, and his own heart trembles. This is Musa, the prophet who once fled Egypt in fear, now ordered by Allah to return and confront the very ruler who had vowed to destroy him. Fear presses against his chest, uncertainty gnaws at his mind, and the future looks like a storm he cannot survive. It is in this exact moment that Allah speaks words that cut through the suffocating weight of anxiety. Do not fear, indeed, I am with you both. I hear and I see. Qur'an 20:46. These are not just words of history. They are medicine for your soul. They are the answer to every what if that keeps you awake at night, every tightness in your chest when you think of tomorrow, every panic that grips you when life feels too big, too dangerous, too uncertain. Let that moment sink in. Imagine the heartbeat of Musa, the nervous trembling of his hands, the dry taste in his mouth as he faces Pharaoh. Can you feel it? It mirrors your own fears. Not the fear of a tyrant, perhaps, but the tyrant of uncertainty. The future looms over you with threats you cannot name, with scenarios you cannot control. Depression feeds on this fear of tomorrow. It whispers, "You will not make it. Something bad is coming. You are not strong enough to face it." Fear of the future is one of the most paralyzing poisons of the heart, and it is exactly here that the Quran plants its remedy, Allah's nearness, not abstract, not distant, but immediate, personal, specific. I am with you. I hear. I see. How many times have you let your mind spiral into worst-case scenarios? You imagine the loss of your job, the collapse of your health, the betrayal of those you trust. You live inside these possible futures as if they are certain, and your heart suffocates. But here is the disruption. None of those imagined futures exist. They are illusions. What is real is this moment, and what is eternal is Allah's promise. The Quran cuts through the fog of anxiety and says, "Your tomorrow is already known to me. I am already there. I am with you." This is why Allah showed us Musa in this vulnerable state. If even a prophet trembled before the unknown, then your fear does not make you faithless. It makes you human. The question is not whether you fear, but whether you let fear silence your trust in Allah. Depression thrives in the soil of what if. Faith blooms in the light of Allah is with me. Which soil will you choose to water? So I ask you, have you been letting imagined tomorrows destroy your present peace? Have you been living in a future that does not yet exist, while the words of Allah invite you to anchor yourself in His presence here and now? People will tell you, "Don't worry so much," as if worry was something you could switch off. But the Quran doesn't dismiss your fear. It redirects it. Allah doesn't say to Musa, "Don't feel afraid." He says, "Do not fear, for I am with you." The solution is not to erase emotion, but to place it in the hands of the one who controls every outcome. And here is where I want to invite you into something deeper. Write in the comments, "My fear belongs to Allah." Declare it. Do not let your anxiety remain a silent prisoner inside your chest. By commenting, you are testifying that you choose to surrender fear to the one who sees what you cannot see. It is your act of defiance against despair, your public reminder that the one who was with Musa before Pharaoh is also with you before your future. But let's confront a painful question. Do you really believe Allah doesn't see your trembling? Do you really think He doesn't know the racing of your heart, the nights you cannot sleep because of fear? Many people assume fear is a sign that Allah has left them, but what if it is the opposite? What if fear is the very stage Allah chooses to reveal His closeness? In dark times, these words from the Quran become like a rope pulling you back from the cliff edge. I hear, I see. Now imagine your own life as Musa's confrontation. Your Pharaoh might be the fear of failing your family. Your Pharaoh might be the diagnosis you are waiting on from the doctor. Your Pharaoh might be the uncertainty of how you will pay rent. Each feels like a giant standing over you, ready to crush you. But remember, Musa's staff was just a stick. Yet in Allah's hands it split the sea. Your resources may look small, your strength may look weak, but Allah is the one who multiplies the impossible into miracles. Your role is not to control the sea. Your role is to throw the staff with trust. This is where sabr and tawakkul come alive. Sabr is not passive endurance, it is active resistance to despair. Tawakkul is not ignoring the storm, it is walking into it with the certainty that Allah walks beside you. Fear without faith paralyzes. Fear with faith transforms into courage. The Quran teaches you that courage is not the absence of fear, it is choosing Allah in spite of fear. And here is the wow moment many never realize. Sometimes the very thing you fear most is the path to your deliverance. Musa feared Pharaoh, yet confronting Pharaoh was the very mission that led to liberation for an entire nation. Could it be that the future you dread holds the key to your growth? Could it be that what terrifies you is actually where Allah has hidden your breakthrough? Depression blinds you to this possibility, but the Quran unveils it. So I ask you again, not to answer me, but to answer your own heart. What would it look like if you lived as if Allah were with you in every appointment, every meeting, every unknown? How would your chest feel if instead of feeding "what if," you repeated, "Allah hears me, Allah sees me"? This is not positive thinking, it is divine truth. And the Quran does not offer it as suggestion, but as reality. The one who carried Musa through Pharaoh's palace is the same one who carries you through tomorrow's storm. And just when you think this lesson cannot go deeper, let me tell you something that will disrupt you even more. Because while Musa shows us the antidote to fear of the future, there was another prophet, a father, whose heart was shattered by loss. His grief consumed him until he wept himself blind. And yet, in his story, Allah placed a secret about patience and longing that very few truly understand. What happens in that story will make you rethink what grief really means, and it may be the most important shift your heart needs. Are you ready to face it? Because what is coming next will pierce your soul in ways you never imagined. The image is unforgettable. An old man whose back is heavy with years, whose heart has already endured countless trials, sitting in silence as tears fall without end. His beloved son Yusuf had vanished, and with him, the light in Yaqub's eyes dimmed. The Quran tells us that his grief was so deep, so overwhelming, that he wept until his vision turned white from sorrow. This is not just poetic description, it is a divine acknowledgement of the depth of human grief. Imagine crying so much that your very body changes, your face marked permanently by longing. This is what grief does. It burns into you, and no words of comfort seem enough. For those who think faith means never feeling sadness, this story disrupts that illusion. A prophet of Allah himself drowned in grief, and yet his faith remained unshaken. His heart broke, but his hope did not die. The verse that carries this truth comes like a whisper of strength. So patience is most fitting, and Allah is the one sought for help against that which you describe. Quran 12:18. Pause for a moment and let that settle into your chest. Many of you watching know exactly what this feels like. Maybe you've buried someone you loved more than life. Maybe you've lost a relationship that you thought would last forever. Maybe the grief you carry is not even from death but from abandonment, betrayal, or dreams that shattered right in your hands. Grief is the shadow that follows you in every room, and depression often feeds on that shadow. It convinces you that because you feel such heaviness, you are somehow broken in your faith. But here is the divine contradiction. Yaqub's grief did not make him less of a believer. It made him more human. And through that humanity, Allah showed us the beauty of sabr. Grief does not prove weakness. Grief proves love, and patience in grief proves faith. So let me ask you, how many times have you been told to move on? How many times has someone told you that time heals all wounds? But look closely, Yaqub did not move on. Time did not erase his tears. His patience was not about pretending everything was fine. His patience was about anchoring his heart to Allah while waves of grief drowned him. That is the real patience, the Quran teaches. It is not denial of pain, it is endurance within pain. It is crying while still trusting. It is weeping until you are blind, while never letting go of the rope of Allah. And perhaps this is exactly the permission you needed today, to know that crying does not disqualify you from Allah's mercy, to know that longing for what you lost is not a betrayal of your faith, to know that the Quran validates your sorrow and sanctifies your tears. Depression may tell you that grief is a curse. The Quran tells you that grief can be a doorway to Allah's compassion. The difference is where you turn when grief overtakes you. Do you drown in despair? Or do you, like Yaqub, whisper, Allah is the one I seek for help? If this touches your soul, declare it in the comments, I choose patience with Allah. Do not be silent in this moment. Let your comment be your testimony that your grief will not lead you to despair, but to reliance. And if this reminder is lifting your heart, even slightly, let your like on this video be an act of sadaqah jariyah. A like spreads this message further, carrying comfort to someone else who cries alone tonight. And sharing this video may be your way of handing a lifeline to someone on the edge of hopelessness. Your small action can become their rescue. Let's dig deeper into the wisdom of this verse. Notice how Yaqub does not say, I will endure alone. He says, Allah is the one sought for help. Grief isolates us. Depression whispers that no one can understand, that no one can enter the private tomb of your sorrow. But Allah invites you to know that you are never locked in alone. Every sob, every longing, every night of staring into darkness is witnessed. And more than witnessed, it is carried. The Quran reframes your grief from a private prison into a sacred dialogue between you and your Lord. Here comes the moment of disruption. What if grief is not meant to be erased, but transformed? What if instead of asking, when will I stop hurting, you asked, how can this hurt bring me closer to Allah? That is the hidden wisdom of patience. It does not erase longing. It sanctifies longing by tethering it to trust. Depression tries to tell you that grief means life is meaningless. The Quran reveals that grief can actually give life its meaning. To love so deeply, to miss so painfully, is to taste the depth of the human heart Allah created. Now reflect, what would happen if instead of fighting your grief, you invited Allah into it? What would happen if, like Yaqub, you allowed yourself to cry until there were no tears left, and yet with each tear you whispered, "I still seek help, only from you"? Your heart would shift. Your depression would lose its absolute grip. The loss would remain, but the despair would weaken, because despair cannot coexist with tawakkul. This is the hidden promise in the story of Yaqub. His grief looked like endless night, but eventually Allah returned Yusuf to him. And when that reunion happened, every tear became testimony that Allah had never abandoned him. What you have lost may not return in this life, but Allah's mercy ensures that your patience is never wasted. In eternity, your tears are treasures. In Jannah, your patience blooms into reunions and joy that your heart cannot imagine today. So let me press you. If your heart is hurting, do not keep it silent. Write in the comments, "My grief belongs to Allah." Like this video as a charity, share it as a form of dawah, and let this message travel to someone who is drowning as you once were. Your action is not small. It is light in someone's darkness. But this is not the end, because while Yaqub teaches us that grief can be sanctified through patience, there is another story, one of a woman pure and chosen, accused and slandered by her own people, who faced the agony of being misunderstood when she had done nothing wrong. Her trial was not loss, but betrayal, and in her silence, Allah revealed a secret that most of us overlook. What unfolds in her story will challenge the way you see trust, vindication, and the weight of others' judgment. And when you hear it, you may find the courage to face your own accusations with a heart steadied by Allah. Picture the scene, a young woman, pure and devoted, known for her piety and her closeness to Allah. She withdraws from her people, seeking solitude, when suddenly the angel Jibril appears to her with news that will shake not only her world, but the history of humanity. She is told she will carry a child without a father, a child destined to be a sign from Allah. Maryam, the most honored of women, is placed in a situation where society's judgment will rain down on her like stones. Imagine her fear, her confusion, her trembling heart. She carried the weight of knowing the tongues of her people would slash her like swords, accusing her of what she never did, staining her name with lies. The Quran captures this moment with raw intensity. She was told, "So eat and drink and be comforted. And if you see from among humanity anyone, say, 'Indeed, I have vowed silence to the most merciful, so I will not speak today to any man.'" Quran 19:26. In the face of slander, in the face of unbearable judgment, Allah did not command her to fight back with words, but to retreat into silence and trust. Now ask yourself, how many times in your life have you been accused of something untrue? How many times have people spoken about you without knowing the truth, judged your life without knowing your struggle, assumed your mistakes without hearing your side? There is a pain worse than physical wounds, the pain of being misunderstood, of being slandered when your heart knows its innocence. Depression often feeds on this pain, whispering that you are trapped in a prison of reputation, that people's opinions define you, that no matter how much you explain, no one will believe you. And yet, Maryam's story comes as a divine disruption. She shows us that silence can sometimes be more powerful than defense, that tawakkul can be louder than explanation, that Allah Himself is enough of a witness when the world misjudges you. Think about the strength it takes to stay silent when your dignity is attacked. Our instinct is to fight back, to prove ourselves, to scream until people finally understand. But Maryam was taught a higher wisdom. Sometimes speaking less allows Allah to speak more on your behalf. Sometimes sabr means stepping back so that Allah Himself vindicates you. And in her silence, Allah provided her with a miracle, the infant Isa speaking in the cradle, defending his mother when no words of hers could. Imagine the relief that flooded her heart in that moment. She did not have to carry the burden of defense. Allah Himself carried it for her. Depression often grows heavier when you feel cornered by people's opinions, when whispers and gossip follow you into every room. But here is the hidden mercy, those same accusations can become the stage upon which Allah's help manifests most clearly. Maryam's slander was the backdrop for one of the greatest miracles in history. Could it be that your slander, your misunderstanding, your humiliation is also the stage for Allah's subtle plan? Could it be that the very thing that feels like your destruction is the seed of your vindication? If you have ever been misunderstood or accused unjustly, write it in the comments as a declaration of faith. Allah is my defender. Let it be your testimony that you will not let people's tongues dictate your worth. Let your comment be your courage, your act of resistance against despair. Do not let silence be mistaken for weakness. Let it be your shield of trust. Now close your eyes for a moment. Imagine being in Maryam's place. Would you have the strength to stay silent? Would you trust Allah enough to let Him handle the voices of judgment while you preserved your dignity and quiet patience? And what if that silence, uncomfortable as it is, became the very thing that drew you closest to Allah? Depression tells you to drown in shame. The Qur'an tells you to anchor yourself in sabr and tawakkul, to let Allah's voice speak louder than the noise of people. And here lies the secret that few ever uncover. Being misunderstood is not always a curse. Sometimes it is Allah protecting you from being defined by people, so that you may be defined by Him alone. Sometimes He strips away your ability to defend yourself so that you may experience the sweetness of watching Him defend you. Maryam's silence was not weakness, it was divine strength, and through her silence, a miracle unfolded. What about you? Are you willing to trust that Allah sees the truth even when the world sees lies? Are you willing to embrace the possibility that the accusations against you could be the very ground from which Allah raises you higher? Depression convinces you that your reputation is ruined forever, but the Qur'an reveals that those who trust Allah are never truly dishonored. I want you to pause and write in the comments, "I trust Allah to clear my name." Let this be your public act of faith. Show yourself and the world that you are not enslaved to people's opinions. But this is not all. There is an even deeper layer here. If Maryam had tried to defend herself, she would have faced endless arguments, endless accusations, endless doubt. Words would not have cleared her, but her silence created space for a miracle. What if your silence is creating space for something unseen to unfold? What if your restraint is the soil where Allah plants the seed of a miracle that will one day blossom in front of everyone? Here's the reframe. The real honor is not in what people say about you, but in what Allah knows of you. Depression makes you obsessed with people's opinions. The Quran calls you back to divine opinion. Maryam walked through her valley of slander and emerged as the most honored woman in the Quran, her name immortalized in Revelation, her silence remembered forever. What people said about her vanished with time. What Allah recorded about her will last until the end of time. And here comes the moment of suspense. If grief could sanctify Yaqub and slander could elevate Maryam, what about sin and regret? What happens when the pain you carry is not from what others did to you, but from what you did to yourself? What if the heaviness you feel comes from guilt, mistakes, and the weight of your own choices? There is a story in the Quran for that too. The story of the very first human being who slipped, who fell, who wept, and who found his way back through forgiveness. That story holds a secret about guilt that could transform the way you see your own past. And what happens next may change the way you see Allah's mercy forever. Imagine being the very first man on earth, chosen and honored by Allah Himself, shaped by His hands, placed gently in the most beautiful garden of eternal peace. Adam alayhi salam lived in Jannah, where every need was fulfilled before it was even felt, where no pain or sorrow ever touched the heart. There was only tranquility, abundance, and nearness to the Creator. But there was also a test, one simple command, one boundary set by Allah out of wisdom and mercy: do not approach this tree. That was all. Yet Shaitan, filled with envy, whispered to Adam and Hawa. He clothed his deceit in beautiful words. He painted disobedience as a doorway to eternity. He made the forbidden seem desirable, as he still does to us today. And in a moment of human weakness, Adam and Hawa tasted from that tree. In an instant, the light of innocence dimmed. Their shame became visible. The sweetness of paradise turned bitter on their tongues, and the crushing realization of having disobeyed their Lord pierced through their hearts like a blade. Pause and picture that moment. From walking among the blessings of paradise, Adam alayhi salam suddenly carried the unbearable weight of guilt. He was no longer simply the honored creation of Allah. He was the one who slipped, the one who lost paradise, the one who brought humanity down to earth. Imagine the heaviness of that regret, the torment of replaying that moment again and again. Depression often works in the same way. It feeds on guilt. It takes a single mistake and magnifies it until it overshadows your entire existence. It whispers that you are unworthy, that you are condemned, that there is no way back. Have you ever felt that way? Have you ever lain awake at night, haunted by something you did, something you said, something you failed to do, and it presses on your chest until you can barely breathe? That suffocating sense that the door is closed, that Allah has turned away from you. But here lies the miracle in Adam's story. Instead of drowning in despair, instead of allowing guilt to paralyze him, Adam turned his pain into a plea. He raised his voice in words that were taught directly by Allah, words that became the very first act of tawbah, repentance. Our Lord, we have wronged ourselves, and if you do not forgive us and have mercy upon us, we will surely be among the losers. Qur'an 7:23. Think about this. The very moment humanity fell was also the very moment Allah opened the door of mercy. Repentance was not an afterthought. It was part of the story from the beginning. Allah Himself placed the key to forgiveness in Adam's hands. What does this mean for you? It means your guilt is not the end of your story. It can be the beginning of your return. Depression thrives on convincing you that guilt is final, that you are defined forever by your mistakes. But the Quran reveals the opposite. Guilt is not a wall that blocks you from Allah. It is a sign that your heart is alive, still aware, still yearning for Him. Shaitan wants you to believe that because you slipped, you are worthless. But the truth is, your slip is an invitation to experience Allah's mercy. Without mistakes, how would we know forgiveness? Without falling, how would we learn the beauty of rising again? Ask yourself, how many times have you thought, I've done too much wrong, Allah will never forgive me? How many times have you stayed away from prayer, from Quran, from dua, because you felt too dirty, too sinful, too ashamed? That is not humility, that is despair. And despair is not from Allah. Despair is Shaitan's weapon. Allah says in the Quran, do not despair of the mercy of Allah. Indeed, Allah forgives all sins, Quran 39:53. Do you hear that? All sins, not some, not most, all. I want you to write in the comments, I refuse to let guilt destroy me. Say it publicly. Let it be your stand against despair, your refusal to let Shaitan chain you with your past. By declaring it, you inspire others who are silently fighting the same battle. Let me challenge a belief that many people hold: time heals all wounds. But does it? If guilt is left untreated, time only makes the scar deeper. Regret does not fade by itself. It festers, it grows, it hardens into hopelessness. True healing comes only from returning to Allah. True healing comes from istighfar, from repentance, from crying the words of Adam alayhi salam. Healing begins when you refuse to let your mistake be the last chapter of your story. Breathe for a moment. Close your eyes and imagine standing before Allah, your sins weighing heavy, your voice trembling as you whisper, Ya Allah, I have wronged myself. Then imagine Allah responding, not with rejection but with infinite mercy, lifting the burden, cleansing your heart, restoring your hope. That is the cure the Quran offers for guilt-born depression. It doesn't erase your past, it transforms it. This story changes everything if you allow it. Depression says guilt proves you are finished. The Quran says guilt proves you are human, and Allah is inviting you to come closer. Depression says your sin defines you. The Quran says your repentance defines you. Depression says you are beyond hope. The Quran says Allah's mercy is nearer than your own jugular vein. And here is the twist that may shock you. Sometimes your greatest mistake becomes the doorway to your greatest closeness with Allah. Sometimes He allows you to fall, not to destroy you, but to humble you, to strip away arrogance, to teach you reliance, and to bring you back with a sincerity you never had before. What if your darkest failure is actually the spark that ignites your highest rise? This is not weakness, now, this is transformation. Adam's story is not just history, it is a mirror. Every time you feel crushed by guilt, you are reliving his journey. And every time you raise your hands in repentance, you are walking the same path of return that he walked. You are part of that legacy of falling and rising. That is why Allah recorded his words in the Quran, not as a story of shame, but as a map back to him. Write in the comments, I choose forgiveness over despair. Let this be your declaration. Let it silence the whispers that tell you it's too late. Let it give courage to someone else who reads it and realizes they too can return. Think about it. If Adam, the father of humanity, slipped in paradise itself, yet still found forgiveness. Who are you to think Allah's mercy cannot reach you here on earth? If Allah could forgive the very first disobedience, why would He not forgive yours? If He placed the words of repentance on Adam's tongue, do you not think He is waiting to hear them on yours? This is the cure depression does not want you to discover. That every time you fall into the pit of regret, there is a rope of mercy lowered to you from above. That every time you feel paralyzed by shame, there is a verse in the Qur'an that calls you back to hope. The door of forgiveness has never been shut. It is only your perception that blinds you to it. And yet, guilt is not the only weight that crushes the soul. There is another pain, different but just as heavy. The exhaustion of striving for years, pouring your soul into something, only to be met with rejection, mockery, and silence. Depression whispers in those moments too, telling you your efforts are wasted, your voice unheard, your struggle meaningless. But the Qur'an also holds a cure for that despair, revealed through the story of a prophet who preached for centuries and was still mocked. And when you hear it, you will see that even your unseen struggles are not forgotten. Imagine carrying a mission that consumes every breath you take, a mission so urgent, so vital, that it becomes your life. But every time you speak, every time you pour out your soul, people turn their backs on you. They mock you, laugh at you, call you crazy. And it doesn't just happen once, not for a few weeks, not for a few years. It stretches across generations, centuries, almost a millennium, 950 years. That was the life of Prophet Nuh alayhi as-salam. Day after day, night after night, his words fell on deaf ears. His warnings about the flood, his call to worship Allah alone, his pleas for them to abandon their idols, all dismissed as nonsense. Imagine the loneliness of such a calling, the crushing fatigue of being unheard for almost 1,000 years. Now pause for a moment. How many of you have felt invisible in your own life? Maybe you give everything to your family, but your efforts go unnoticed. Maybe at work, you're the one who stays late, who fixes the mistakes of others, who sacrifices weekends, and yet promotions always pass you by. Maybe in your circle of friends, you're always the listener, the one who holds everyone else's burdens, but when it's your turn to speak, silence meets you. That silence, that lack of acknowledgement eats away at you, and slowly depression creeps in, whispering, "No one cares. You don't matter. You are irrelevant." Prophet Nuh knew that feeling more than anyone, and here is the truth that will shake your perspective. Even prophets felt overpowered. Even prophets cried out from the depth of their exhaustion. The Quran doesn't paint its messengers as invincible superheroes. It shows them as human, as vulnerable, as men who turned to Allah when their strength shattered. And that's why the cry of Nuh pierces through the centuries, straight into your heart. "My Lord, indeed I am overpowered, so help." Quran 54:10. One line, simple, stripped of eloquence, raw with desperation. Do you feel it? It's not just a historical statement, it's a mirror for you. How often have you been taught that strength means pretending everything is fine? That to be a believer is to hide your pain, to smile while breaking inside? But here, Allah records for eternity the words of a prophet admitting his weakness. What if the real cure for depression isn't pretending to be strong, but admitting to Allah that you are weak? What if depression isn't a sign that you failed, but a sign that Allah is calling you closer to Him? Close your eyes for a moment and whisper it, "My Lord, I am overpowered, so help." Feel how your chest softens. Feel how the burden lifts slightly, just by acknowledging you don't have to carry it all. Tawakkul, trust in Allah, doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It means you place the weight of that pain in the hands of the one who never grows tired. But here's the part most people don't want to admit. Society lies to you. It says the cure for exhaustion is to push harder, hustle more, keep grinding until you succeed. But where has that gotten you? Burned out, bitter, drowning in depression? The Quran flips this completely. It says, surrender, admit your limits, let go of the illusion of control. Cry out like Nuh did in the middle of your despair, "My Lord, I am overpowered, so help." And maybe the biggest lie depression tells you is that no one notices, so nothing matters. But here's the secret the Quran whispers back. Allah notices. Every tear that slips quietly into your pillow is recorded. Every sigh when you collapse from exhaustion is known. Every effort no one else praises, Allah counts. He is Ash-Shakur, the one who appreciates, the one who never lets anything go unseen. Think about it. Nuh preached for nearly 1,000 years and had so few followers that, in worldly terms, he would be called a failure. But in Allah's sight, he became one of the greatest of prophets. What does that mean for you? That your worth is not tied to applause, to likes, to recognition, to how many people validate you. Your worth is tied to your sincerity, to your persistence, to the heart that refuses to give up on Allah even when the whole world rejects you. If you've ever felt drained, invisible, or unappreciated, write in the comments, Ya Allah, I hand you my burden. Let your words become a public dua, a shield for yourself and a rope for someone else who is drowning in silence. And if this message touched your heart, don't forget to hit the like button and share it. Your act of engagement could be the very reminder someone else desperately needs to hear tonight. Take a deep breath. Let those words linger. Depression thrives on isolation, on convincing you that you are alone. But the Quran teaches you that being overpowered is not a private shame. It is the doorway to divine help. You were never meant to carry everything on your own. You were always meant to collapse in the arms of the one who holds the heavens and the earth without effort. And let's not skip the twist that changes everything. Allah let Nuh preach for centuries with little visible success, not because he abandoned him, but to teach us a radical lesson. Success is not measured by results in this world. You might spend your life caring for someone who never appreciates you, working on projects that never get acknowledged, striving to improve yourself with no applause. And yet, in Allah's records, you are writing a legacy greater than empires. Because Allah does not judge by outcome. He judges by effort. He judges by intention. He judges by the unseen sacrifices no one else applauds. This is where depression's whisper collapses. It says, if no one notices, why bother? But Allah's voice in the Quran answers, I notice, and that is enough. It says, I am Ash-Shahid, the witness. It says, I am As-Sami, the one who hears. It says, I am Al-Basir, the one who sees. Do you feel it? Every moment of invisibility is actually a moment of intimacy with Allah. Now imagine if you reframed your exhaustion. Instead of saying, I'm worthless because no one appreciates me, you said, I'm blessed because Allah is watching me. Instead of sinking into depression because you feel overpowered, you rose into peace because being overpowered is your chance to taste Allah's strength. Depression tells you, you've reached the end. The Quran tells you, this is where Allah begins. Write in the comments, my strength is in Allah. Let those words anchor you. And if this resonated, hit like and share this reminder so others can discover the same hidden strength. You never know who might be saved by reading your act of faith. But hold on, if Nuh's story speaks to exhaustion and invisibility, what about the moments when the world feels like fire around you? When life doesn't just ignore you, but actively tries to destroy you? When hostility, insecurity, and danger press in until survival itself feels impossible? That's where another prophet's story lights up the darkness. And the way Allah intervened in his life is nothing short of miraculous. A lesson you were meant to carry into your own struggles. Imagine standing alone in front of a raging crowd. Not just a few enemies, not just whispers behind your back, but an entire nation gathered, their faces burning with anger, their hands ready to strike, their voices united in hatred, and all because you refused to bow to their idols, because you dared to say, there is only one God. That was the reality of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. They mocked him, they argued with him, they tried to silence him, but when words weren't enough, they built a fire so huge, so furious, that even standing nearby was unbearable. And their plan? To throw Ibrahim into it. Imagine watching the flames leap into the sky, feeling the heat from a distance, and knowing that you are about to be cast into them. No escape, no allies, no human hand reaching out to save you. Have you ever felt like that? Maybe not in front of a literal fire, but surrounded by the fires of life, financial insecurity, the hostility of people who wish you harm, the uncertainty of not knowing how you will survive the next day. Depression often doesn't come from a single event. It comes from the weight of survival itself. Bills piling up, mouths to feed, the fear of losing a job, the terror of not being able to provide. Or perhaps your fire is emotional, a toxic environment where every day feels like walking through flames of insults, disrespect, or rejection. You can feel yourself burning from the inside out. That hopelessness, that sense that no escape exists, that is your fire. Now watch what happens in Ibrahim's story. The people finally seize him. They tie him, carry him, and fling him into the inferno. This is the moment you'd expect destruction, the end. And yet, the Qur'an records something astonishing. We said, "O fire, be coolness and safety upon Ibrahim." Qur'an 21:69. The flames that should have consumed him became a place of comfort. The very element designed to destroy him was commanded to protect him. Do you see the miracle here? Allah didn't put out the fire. He didn't remove Ibrahim from it. He changed its nature. What was unbearable became bearable. What was pain became peace. And isn't that exactly what you need in the fires of your own life? You may not be able to erase your struggles. The debt might not vanish overnight. The hostile environment might not change tomorrow. The challenges might remain. But tawakkul, true trust in Allah, transforms the fire itself. Depression says, you can't survive this. The Qur'an says, Allah can cool even the hottest flames. Depression says, your situation will consume you. The Qur'an says, your situation can become your safety if Allah wills. Think deeply. What is the fire in your life right now? Is it poverty? Is it rejection? Is it family conflict? Is it loneliness? And what if Allah is allowing you to feel the heat so you can witness His ability to change its nature? What if the fire that terrifies you is actually your path to peace? This is where we challenge a dangerous belief. Many people think hardship itself is punishment. They say, I must have done something wrong, otherwise Allah wouldn't put me here. But ask yourself, was Ibrahim being punished when he was cast into the fire? Or was he being elevated, chosen for a miracle that the world would remember forever? Sometimes the intensity of your fire is proof of the greatness of the lesson Allah wants to write in your life. So, what's the practical step? When you stand in front of your fire, whisper what Ibrahim's heart whispered, Hasbunallahu wa ni'ma al-wakil. Allah is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of affairs. This isn't just a phrase, it's a shield. It's the declaration that transforms fear into peace. Depression feeds on the belief that you are helpless. Faith feeds on the certainty that Allah's power surrounds you, even in the flames. Now let me ask you, have you ever been in a situation that felt impossible, where everyone around you doubted you, and yet somehow Allah opened a door no one else could see? That was your fire turning cool, and if He did it before, He can do it again. If you're facing your own fire, whether financial, emotional, or spiritual, write in the comments, my fire will be cool by Allah's will. Let your words be a declaration of faith, not fear. But don't stop there. Imagine the ripple effect of your faith. Imagine someone scrolling, broken and suffocating in their own fire, and they see your comment shining like a torch. They whisper it themselves, they believe it themselves, and suddenly hope is born in their chest. Your single line could be the rope that pulls them back from despair. That is the power of sharing faith in moments of vulnerability. Depression tells you, you're trapped. No one will save you. But the Qur'an reminds you, Allah's command can flip reality in a single instant. Depression says, the fire is your end. Allah says, the fire is your beginning. Depression says, your struggle will destroy you. The Qur'an says, your struggle will become your safety. Take this truth into your heart. Allah does not always remove the test. He changes its nature. He doesn't always take you out of the fire. He teaches the fire itself to protect you. And when you come out on the other side, you are stronger, purified, elevated, because you tasted what it means to rely entirely on Him. Close your eyes. Imagine your fire right now, the debts, the rejection, the pain. Imagine it roaring around you. Now imagine Allah saying to it, be coolness and safety. Can you feel the shift? Can you feel your heartbeat steady, your chest loosen, your tears drying? That is not fantasy. That is tawakkul in action. That is the power of placing your trust not in the circumstances, but in the creator of circumstances. And here is where it gets even deeper. Ibrahim walked into the fire alone, but when Allah made it cool, he was never alone again. Because whoever stands with Allah never stands alone. Depression thrives when you believe you are isolated. But faith crushes that lie by reminding you that Allah is closer to you than your own soul. So ask yourself, do you really believe that your fire is stronger than the one who created fire? Do you really believe your circumstances are greater than the one who commands the heavens and the earth? Or will you stand like Ibrahim, whispering, Allah is sufficient for me, even as the flames surround you? And remember, Allah doesn't share this story in the Qur'an for entertainment. He shares it so you can live it, so you can recognize your fire, whisper your trust, and watch as it transforms into safety. Now, here's the twist that will leave you stunned. The same people who mocked Ibrahim, who celebrated throwing him into the fire, had to watch him walk out of it untouched. Do you understand what that means? The very thing your enemies plan for your destruction can become the stage for your elevation. The very trial that depression tells you will end, you can become the testimony that defines you. Write it in the comments. Allah is sufficient for me. Say it like Ibrahim did. Let it echo here. Let it echo in your heart. Let it echo in your fire until the flames themselves bow to the will of Allah. But this isn't the only story of fire, pain and transformation. Because sometimes the flames are not outside you but inside your own body. Sometimes the test is not financial insecurity or hostile enemies, but a physical illness that lingers for years, draining your strength, making every day feel heavier than the last. And in that test, another prophet's story reveals a mercy few have the courage to truly believe. Imagine a man whose body is failing him day after day, once strong, once healthy, once vibrant, now left weakened and in constant pain. Imagine every breath a struggle, every movement slow, every day blending into another as illness consumes him. That man is Ayub alayhi salam. Once blessed with wealth, family and health, all of it stripped away until nothing remained but his broken body and his unwavering heart. Can you imagine that kind of suffering? Not for days or weeks, but for years upon years, while people whisper that surely he must have done something wrong, that Allah must be punishing him. Yet the Qur'an records his words, so simple and profound. Indeed, adversity has touched me, and you are the most merciful of the merciful. Qur'an 21:83. He doesn't scream, he doesn't rage, he doesn't accuse. He whispers, he acknowledges his pain, but also Allah's mercy. Now let's reflect. How often do you find yourself crushed under the weight of sickness, whether of the body or the soul? Depression feels like a disease of the heart, an illness unseen but heavy, suffocating. For some, it comes from years of carrying trauma. For others, from chronic illness that eats away not just at the body but at the spirit. The nights grow longer, the loneliness deeper, and the voice inside whispers, "You are forgotten, you are abandoned." That voice is the fire of despair, and yet Ayub's story confronts that lie directly. He was not forgotten, he was not abandoned. His dua was heard, recorded, honored in the Quran. Think about the contrast here. Society often tells us, if you are sick, if you are depressed, if you are suffering, then you must be weak, less valuable, even cursed. But the Quran flips this narrative. The man who suffered most became a symbol of patience, a story of triumph. His weakness became his strength, his illness became his elevation. This is where we must ask the hard question. Do you really believe your sickness is proof of Allah's anger, or could it be proof of His love, a path designed to draw you closer to Him than health ever could? Ayub alayhi salam lost almost everything. His wealth vanished, his family taken, his body consumed by disease. Even his closest companions turned away, yet his heart remained. Depression tells you that losing everything means losing yourself. The Quran shows you that even when everything else is gone, you still have your connection to Allah, and that connection is enough to rebuild everything. Now imagine this. You, sitting in your room, maybe sick, maybe overwhelmed, maybe drowning in depression. You whisper a dua, so simple, so sincere. Ya Allah, you see me, you know my pain, you are the most merciful. That whisper, like Ayub's, rises above the weight of your sickness, above the walls of your despair, and reaches the throne of the one who never forgets. If Allah answered Ayub, do you doubt He will answer you? Depression thrives on the lie that your prayers don't matter, that your whispers go unheard. But Ayub's dua was nothing but a whisper, and it was enough to shake the heavens. Your whisper is not weakness. It is your lifeline. So how can you apply this? When you wake up exhausted, whisper it. When your body aches, whisper it. When your heart feels too heavy to carry, whisper it. Indeed, adversity has touched me, and you are the most merciful of the merciful. Not a scream, not a speech, just a reminder that Allah sees your pain and His mercy outweighs it. I want you to write in the comments, "My pain will lead me to Allah's mercy." Declare it, not as a cry of despair, but as a proclamation of faith. Let it be a statement that transforms your sickness, your depression, your struggle into a doorway of hope. When others read your words, they will see themselves reflected in your courage, and together, you'll create a community of whispers rising to Allah. And here's a perspective that changes everything. Allah could have healed Ayub immediately, but He didn't. He allowed the illness to stretch on for years. Why? Because sometimes the delay is not punishment. It's preparation. Preparation for a higher station. Preparation for your dua to carry more sincerity. Preparation for your story to inspire generations. Depression tells you delay means abandonment. The Qur'an tells you delay means preparation. Breathe that in for a moment. What if your unanswered prayer is not proof Allah has turned away, but proof that He is crafting something greater, something you can't yet see? What if your illness is not the end of your journey, but the beginning of a new chapter where you are drawn closer to Him than ever before? And remember this, when Allah finally restored Ayub, He didn't just give back what was lost, He gave more. More wealth, more health, more blessings, more honor. That's the sunnah of Allah's mercy. He doesn't just heal, He restores, He elevates, He multiplies. Depression tells you you'll never get back what you lost. The Qur'an says Allah can return what you lost and add what you never imagined. Close your eyes. Picture your illness, your depression, your pain. See it as a shadow hovering over you. Now picture Allah's mercy, vast, endless, radiant. Watch as it swallows the shadow whole. That is the reality Ayub teaches us. Your adversity can be touched, but His mercy is infinite. And here comes the most powerful revelation. Ayub's dua was not long, complicated, or elaborate. It was raw and honest. That means you don't need eloquence to be heard. You don't need long hours of perfect words. You just need sincerity. Depression tries to convince you your words are too weak, your prayers too broken. But the Qur'an reminds you that even the broken prayer of a broken man in broken health reached the most merciful. So the question is, will you let depression define your pain as a prison, or will you let the Qur'an redefine it as your path to mercy? Say it in the comments. Adversity has touched me, and Allah is the most merciful. Let those words be your shield, your declaration, your hope. But wait, the journey doesn't end here, because sometimes the darkness doesn't come from illness of the body or loss of wealth. Sometimes it feels like being swallowed whole, trapped in a place with no escape, suffocated in layers of despair. And in that moment, another prophet's story reveals the dua that can free you from the darkest prisons of the soul. Picture yourself in a place where there is no escape, not a locked room, not a dark alley, but inside the very belly of despair itself. Imagine sinking deeper and deeper into layers of darkness until no light remains. The darkness of the ocean, the darkness of night, and the darkness of a whale's belly. That was the reality of Prophet Yunus alayhi salam. Alone, swallowed whole, cut off from everything, trapped in what seemed like a grave in the depths of the sea. For many who live with depression, this imagery feels all too familiar. It is not a physical prison, but a prison of the soul. The heart feels suffocated, the chest tightens, the mind screams, with no exit in sight. And yet, from this place of suffocation came one of the most powerful du'as ever recorded in the Qur'an. There is no deity except you, exalted are you. Indeed, I have been of the wrongdoers. Qur'an 21:87. Reflect on that. Yunus alayhi salam was not just trapped in physical darkness, he was also swallowed by regret. He had walked away from his people in frustration. He felt he had failed. Depression whispers to you in the same way. You failed. You gave up. You should have done more. But look at his response. He didn't try to justify. He didn't curse. He admitted, "Indeed, I have been of the wrongdoers." This confession, paired with the exaltation of Allah's perfection, shattered the layers of darkness that surrounded him. The Qur'an testifies that Allah answered his cry and delivered him safely. Now think about your own struggles. Have you ever felt suffocated by regret, by shame, by despair, so heavy it felt like drowning? Have you ever cried in silence, convinced no one could hear you in your pit of darkness? The story of Yunus is proof that even in the deepest, most impossible prisons, Allah hears. He hears the whisper that never leaves your lips. He hears the thought you are too ashamed to speak. The cure is not in pretending you're strong, but in admitting your weakness before the one whose mercy is infinite. This dua of Yunus is not just words, it's a lifeline. It begins with Tawheed, La ilaha illa anta. There is no deity, except you. That alone reorients the heart from the prison of self toward the vastness of Allah. It moves from despair to surrender, from suffocation to expansion. Then comes tasbih, subhanaka, exalted are you, free from imperfection. Depression tries to project our own brokenness onto Allah, whispering that He has abandoned us. But tasbih corrects that lie. Allah is perfect, never unjust, never absent. Finally comes confession. Inni kuntu mina ad-dhalimin. I was among the wrongdoers. A recognition of our flaws, but also an act of liberation, because acknowledging weakness before Allah is the key to being lifted from weakness itself. This is where modern struggles connect deeply. Many people are taught that depression is weakness, or worse, a sign of disbelief. But the Qur'an challenges this. Was Yunus weak when he admitted his wrongdoing? Or was he strong? Was he abandoned when he was swallowed? Or was he heard more profoundly than ever? Depression tells you your cries mean nothing. The Qur'an tells you a single cry from the depth of darkness can change your destiny. I want you to write in the comments, "From my darkness, Allah will rescue me." Let this be your declaration, your testimony, your rope thrown into the sea of despair. And if this message has touched you, do not keep it to yourself. Click like and share this video, because maybe your act will be the reason someone else trapped in their own whale finds the dua that saves them. Now pause for a moment. Close your eyes. Imagine your depression as the belly of a whale pressing on you from all sides. Imagine the ocean waves above you, the darkness of night surrounding you. And then, from within that suffocation, picture yourself whispering, "La ilaha illa anta, subhanaka, inni kuntu mina adh-dhalimin." Watch as the chains break. Watch as the suffocation lifts. Watch as Allah commands your whale to release you, just as He commanded the whale to release Yunus. That is the power of surrender. This is the redefinition the Qur'an offers. Depression tries to convince you that being at rock bottom is the end, but the Qur'an reveals that rock bottom can be the beginning. The belly of the whale became the womb of rebirth for Yunus. His mission didn't end there, it began anew. He emerged not broken but renewed, not discarded but honored. Likewise, your darkest night can be the turning point where you are remade, where you emerge with new strength, new faith, new clarity. But here's the disruptive truth. Not everyone wants to be rescued. Some cling to the darkness because it has become familiar, even comfortable. Depression can trick the mind into believing that hope is too risky, that surrender is too humiliating. Yet Yunus shows that only by admitting our need can we be delivered. So the piercing question for you is this: do you really want Allah to rescue you, or have you grown comfortable in the belly of despair? Your answer will determine whether the dua of Yunus becomes just words on your tongue or the key to your deliverance. The verse is not a magic formula. It is a mirror. It asks you to face yourself honestly, to admit where you've run away, where you've given up, where you've wronged yourself. And in that honesty, Allah promises rescue. That's why this verse is the cure for the suffocation of depression. It does not deny the darkness, but transforms it into a doorway to light. So take this dua seriously. Write it down, memorize it, repeat it when your chest feels tight, when your room feels like a prison, when your heart whispers that no one cares. This is your rope in the ocean, and just like Yunus, your whisper can rise from the bottom of despair to the throne of the most merciful. And yet, there is still one more layer to this truth, because even after Yunus was rescued, his journey was not over. He had to return to his people. He had to face the mission he once left behind, which means your rescue is not just about escaping depression. It's about stepping into the life Allah still has for you. It's about realizing your story doesn't end in the whale. It begins after. Say it in the comments, "La ilaha illa anta subhanaka, inni kuntu mina adh-dhalimin." Proclaim it publicly as your shield, your dua, your commitment. And remember to like and share this video so others drowning in their darkness can learn this cry of deliverance. But that's not the end, because sometimes the prison of despair doesn't come from being swallowed, but from being crushed by responsibility, by the weight of a mission that feels too heavy to carry. And in that moment, another verse of the Qur'an delivers a promise that turns hardship itself into relief. Imagine the scene. The cave is still, the night is silent, and the heart of a man beats with longing for truth. He has spent his entire life searching for meaning, disturbed by the idols that his people bow to, burdened by the injustice that suffocates society. This man, Muhammad, is known among his people as Al-Amin, the trustworthy. Yet even the trustworthy feels the heaviness of existence, the despair of witnessing a broken world, and so he withdraws to the cave of Hira, seeking solitude, seeking Allah, seeking light in a world drenched in shadows. But what he receives is not the gentle whisper of comfort, it is revelation. Angel Jibril descends, wrapping him in the divine command, Iqra, recite. The weight of it crushes his chest, his heart trembles, his soul quivers. The Prophet leaves the cave terrified, running home to Khadijah shivering, asking her to cover him, to shield him from the unbearable weight of responsibility that has just descended upon him. This is not a story of weakness. It is a story of what it means to be human when faced with a divine mission that feels impossible to carry. And if you have ever felt that life has given you more than you can bear, if you have ever lain awake at night thinking, "I can't do this anymore," then you understand the essence of this moment. It is at this point that Allah revealed a timeless truth, not only for the Prophet, but for you and me. So verily with the hardship there is relief. Qur'an 94:6. Notice how Allah phrases it. Not after hardship comes relief, but with the hardship there is relief. It is paired, inseparable, like two sides of the same coin. Relief is born with hardship, like dawn is born with night. Depression often convinces you that hardship is permanent, that the darkness has no end, that the responsibilities pressing against your chest will suffocate you. But Allah dismantles that illusion with this verse. He declares that relief is not distant. It is tied to the very burden you carry. The weight itself carries your upliftment. The blanket that suffocated the Prophet in that trembling moment became the very symbol of his rising, his mission, his strength. Think about your own life. Maybe you are carrying the responsibility of raising children alone, or working tirelessly to provide for a family, or dealing with the crushing pressure of expectations from parents, teachers, or society. Maybe you are holding responsibilities so heavy that every step feels like walking with chains around your feet. Depression whispers, "You're not enough. You're going to fail. This pressure will destroy you." But Allah's voice in the Qur'an interrupts. With the hardship, there is relief. It is not a possibility, it is a promise. Every responsibility that makes your shoulders tremble is also a key to your elevation. The Prophet, despite trembling in fear, carried the heaviest mission humanity has ever known, and he did not collapse under its weight. He rose because of it. And you can rise too. This is where sabr and tawakkul become your weapons against despair. Patience is not passive waiting. It is the conscious choice to remain firm, knowing that your tears, your sleepless nights, your silent prayers are all being recorded and rewarded. Tawakkul is not just saying, "I trust Allah." It is laying your fear at His feet, handing Him the weight that you cannot carry alone, whispering to yourself, "My hardship has my relief within it because Allah promised it." Depression tells you that responsibility is a prison. Faith reveals that responsibility is a doorway to Allah's mercy. Look at the Prophet in that moment of fear. He did not ask for the mission, yet Allah chose him. Likewise, you may not have asked for the responsibilities crushing you, but Allah chose you for them. He does not place burdens on random souls. He chose you because He equipped you. Your responsibility is not a punishment, it is a trust. And if Allah trusts you with it, He will also sustain you through it. The verse guarantees that. This is the divine psychology of Islam. The world often tells you, the time will heal you, things will get easier. But Allah says, with the hardship, there is relief. Relief is not delayed healing. It is immediate. It is inseparable. You may not see it yet, but it is already written into your struggle. Every responsibility you carry has a hidden gift inside, waiting to be discovered. Depression hides that gift from your eyes. The Qur'an uncovers it. Ask yourself, how many times did you think this is the end only to realize later it was the beginning? How many times did you believe, I will break, only to look back and see that the breaking was actually the making of you? The Prophet trembled in fear, yet that trembling moment was the foundation of a mission that brought light to the entire world. The night that seemed unbearable was actually the night that shifted history. Your nights of despair are not meaningless either. They carry within them seeds of transformation. I want you to declare it in the comments, "My hardship carries my relief." Don't just write it as a phrase. Write it as a testimony, as a declaration of faith that you believe Allah's promise is stronger than your depression. And if this message has touched your heart, if it made you pause and breathe differently, then don't keep it to yourself. Share it so that others drowning under their burdens may see this light too. You never know whose life your words might save, whose soul you might comfort by spreading the remembrance of Allah. Take a breath with me. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine your own responsibilities. The bills stacking up, the studies weighing you down, the expectations pressing against your heart. Now imagine Allah whispering into your soul, with the hardship, there is relief. Imagine that relief walking beside your hardship like a shadow that never leaves, waiting for you to notice. Depression blinds you to it, but Allah assures you it is there. Every burden you carry is not an ending but a bridge. Every responsibility you dread is not a curse, but a ladder. The Prophet climbed his, and the light of Islam spread to every corner of the world. You will climb yours too if you trust in Allah's promise. And this is where you need to challenge your own thoughts. People often say, I can't take it anymore. But the truth is, you have already taken more than you thought possible. You are still breathing, still fighting, still searching for meaning, still here. That is proof that Allah has carried you through every single moment, and He will not stop. This verse is not only a verse for the Prophet, it is a verse for you, for your depression, for your crushing responsibilities. It is Allah speaking to you directly. With your hardship, there is your relief. So let your soul hold on to this anchor. Repeat it when the voices in your head scream that you're not enough. Whisper it when the world tells you to give up. Shout it in your heart when the burden feels too heavy. With the hardship, there is relief. This is not a motivational slogan. It is the word of Allah, eternal, unchanging, written before you were born. And just as it sustained the Prophet when he trembled in fear, it will sustain you when you tremble in despair. Your story will not end in heaviness. Your story is written to end in relief. And that is not wishful thinking. That is the promise of Allah. Throughout everything we have shared in this journey, one truth has kept repeating like the beating of your own heart. Allah never abandons you. From Yusuf in the well, to Musa trembling before Pharaoh, from Yaqub crying until his eyes turned white, to Maryam facing slander, from Adam crushed with guilt, to Nuh overwhelmed with centuries of rejection, from Ibrahim cast into the fire, to Ayub suffering illness, from Yunus swallowed in the belly of darkness, to Muhammad trembling under the first revelation. Every moment of despair carried within it Allah's promise of mercy, relief, and guidance. And just as their stories were not left to end in despair, neither will yours. The Qur'an is alive, speaking to you in your darkest nights, whispering hope when your depression tells you it is hopeless, and anchoring you when the storms of responsibility, guilt, loneliness, or grief threaten to sink you. The cure for your brokenness has always been here: patience, trust, and returning to Allah. If your heart is still beating as you hear these words, it means Allah is still giving you a chance to rise, to heal, to return, to believe again. You are not watching this by coincidence. You were meant to hear this. You asked Allah in silence, and He is answering you with His words. And if you have carried pain for so long that you no longer believe peace is possible, know this: peace is not only possible, it is promised by the One who created your heart. So I want you to prepare for something greater now. Take a deep breath, close your eyes, and place your hand on your chest. Feel your heart. This heart has been bruised, burdened, maybe even broken, but it still beats. That is Allah's sign to you. He has not let go. He is still with you. And before we end, I want you to join me in a moment of surrender, a moment where your pain becomes prayer. Raise your hands, lift your gaze, or lower your head, whatever brings you closer to humility, and open your soul to the One who hears you even before you speak. O Allah, Lord of the heavens and the earth, the One who knows what we hide and what we reveal, we turn to you with hearts heavy with fear, anxiety, guilt, and sorrow. O Allah, remove from us the burdens that crush our spirits. Replace our despair with hope, our weakness with strength, and our tears with relief. Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, shower us with your mercy that has no end. Grant us sabr when we feel like giving up. Grant us tawakkul when the future terrifies us. And grant us peace that no circumstance can steal. Heal the hearts that are broken. Comfort the souls that are restless, and guide those who are lost back to the light of your Qur'an. O Allah, write for every person listening to this dua a future filled with your forgiveness, your love, and your eternal companionship in Jannah. Ameen. If you reach this moment, it is because Allah Himself brought you here. He is working in your heart and answering the supplications you thought no one heard. Do not let this moment pass without sealing it with action. Write in the comments, "I trust Allah," as your public declaration of faith. Let it be your stand against despair, your testimony that you refuse to let depression win. And if this message touched your soul, share it with someone who is suffering, because spreading the words of Allah may be your sadaqah jariyah, a charity that continues to benefit you even after you leave this world. Subscribe to this channel, because here you will always find the reminders, the support, and the light you need to keep your faith alive. And as you finish this prayer, know that your journey is not ending here. It is only beginning. What you will discover in the next video that appears on your screen could be the very continuation of what your heart is craving. Do not leave without watching it. It may be the exact answer to the prayer you whispered last night in your pillow. Verily, with hardship comes ease. 94.6. Hold on to that as your final thought. And before you move on, remember, your like, your comment, your subscription is not just support for this channel. It is support for a mission of hope, a mission of Qur'an, a mission of faith that could save another soul from despair. So engage, share, and stay, because what comes next is too important for you to miss.